Then Nell asked the rogue adventurers for compensation for property damage in this adventurers guild.
ここ汚した修繕費を請求しますね。払うまで回復はさせないから。
Then Fran started to go around the city looking for armor and other items she needed. After walking around for a long time, Fran was approached by an old man who had identified Shisho earlier. Fran was offered armor if she wanted to visit the old man's blacksmith shop. Fran and Shisho are surprised because this old man is very suspicious. Shisho also identifies him and sees the old man's name, Garrus, with his special ability being God's Eyes. Garrus was a blacksmith with the title Blacksmith King of the Granzel Kingdom. Because of that, Shisho told Fran to come with Garrus while being careful. When Fran and Shisho arrived in front of Garrus' shop, some adventurers were annoyed that Garrus was selling equipment and weapons to a weak kid like Fran. Then Garrus said Fran didn't need to pay attention to what the adventurers said. Garrus only sold equipment and weapons to great adventurers, including Fran. That way, Garrus' equipment and weapons won't be wasted. Garrus also explained that he had seen Fran's defense of trash adventurers before, so Fran was very worthy of getting equipment from Garrus. Then Fran was given an armor suitable for her body, and Fran became even more beautiful after wearing the armor.
強い上に可愛くなったぞ。
初めての防具手に入れた。
Maybe I'll make her my wife, even though she's only 12 years old. This armor increased resistance to elemental attack effects, and Shisho was very happy to see Fran's current status. Garrus also gave Fran a low price because the armor was ordered from a dead person in the dungeon. Then Shisho told Fran to look at Garrus' sword. There might be a sword with a higher attack than the adventurer's weapons. Garrus was confused. Why did Fran want to see another sword when she already had a very powerful intelligent sword?
このじいさん、なんで知ってる？インテリジェンスウェポンなんてな。
Then Garrus calms Fran and Shisho. He explains that his God Eye ability can identify anything. If anyone had identification blocking abilities, Garrus would still be able to penetrate them. Garrus said that Shisho had already surpassed the limits of swordsmanship, so he didn't have to worry about his low attacks. Garrus also wanted to speak directly to Shisho and wouldn't tell anyone about this. Because of that, Shisho and Fran didn't suspect anything of Garrus anymore. Shisho is still confused. Why is Garrus so confident in the attack power of Shisho's sword, even though the number is very different from Garrus' sword? Then Garrus gave Shisho a tutorial to increase a weapon's attack power. Garrus explained that if Fran or Shisho cast magic into the sword, the attack power would increase, depending on how many points were sent. Then Garrus told Fran and Shisho to practice it directly. Garrus told them to put 100 magic points into the sword's attack power. This ability is commonly called magic conductivity. Garrus said that Shisho and Fran's conductivity ability has reached level A and can increase to X or 200% of the magic points added to the sword's attack power. So Shisho doesn't have to worry about this attack power because Shisho is a sword whose strength is beyond the limits of other swords. According to Garrus, the sword could still survive even if Shisho and Fran put in 1000 magic points. Shisho was very happy after hearing Garrus' explanation because all along he had thought that his low attack power would be useless to Fran. However, it turns out it wasn't like that.
じいさん、あんたいいやつだな。フラン、安心してくれ。俺強いらしいぞ。
Then Garrus asked who made this clever sword. Shisho said he didn't know about it because he didn't remember any memories of this sword. Garrus thought that Shisho must have been made by a god-level blacksmith. Because in this world, there used to be 5 people with this title, and they created very crazy swords with their special abilities. Shisho thanked Garrus for telling him this. Then Shisho ordered a sword scabbard for Fran and gave some materials that might be useful for making it later. Garrus was surprised that their materials were of a high level. Even Shisho and Fran could make new armor using these materials. but Shisho and Fran didn't have enough money to pay for the new armor. Garrus didn't think about it because he could use this leftover material they gave him to replace the cost of his new armor. The price of the materials is also on par with the new armor that will be made for Fran. Then Garrus asked for 3 days to make the sword scabbard and a month for Fran's new armor. Garrus thanked them for visiting his shop. Likewise, Fran and Shisho thanked Garrus for explaining the tutorial about attack power. After that, they went to a clothing store, a cookware and condiment shop owned by a man named Rufus. Shisho is very considerate of Fran, and he will also cook good food for Fran. When Fran tries on some clothes suggested by the shop owner, Shisho is excited because Fran is still beautiful in any outfit.
そうそうフランは元がいいからね
フランちゃん可愛いから何でも似合うわ
さすがに大人っぽすぎるか。
わ
黒のショーツがいいかもね。
黒
My wife is the best. After that, they went to one of the inns in the city. Fran was so happy that she could finally get proper rest. She thanked Shisho and was also grateful for being able to meet Shisho at that time. Fran's life has started to change, and she loves Shisho very much.
フラン
Then Shisho promised to remain by Fran's side and protect her until Fran could be independent and evolve as the strongest black cat race. Afterward, Shisho cooked food for Fran. Of course, Shisho used a special ability to do this.
スパイスを使ったフライドチキンだ
ごちそうさま。
After that, they sleep together and will continue the adventure the next day. Fran and Shisho took on a G-rank quest and gathered herbs while killing several goblins. After that, Fran's adventure level rose to G-rank level, then they went back to doing the herb quest again. Suddenly, Fran heard the battle sound from the distance, and they immediately approached in the direction of the sound. It turned out that the battle came from the adventurer party who was fighting the goblins in this forest. The adventurers were bewildered because there were suddenly so many goblins, and their situation was already desperate. When one of the adventurers wants to use fire magic, Fran comes to their rescue and kills all the goblins alone.
ストーンバレット
フランのレベルが4になりました。
残り7匹。ダブルスラッシュ。ストーンバレット。ヘビースラッシュ。
Then the adventurers thanked Fran for killing all the goblins and restoring their bodies. They were amazed by Fran's extraordinary abilities, even though she was still a child. When Fran introduced herself as a G-rank adventurer, the adventurers were surprised that Fran was of the same rank as them. Since it was Fran who killed all the goblins alone, the adventurers told Fran to take them. Then Fran wanted to take only the hobgoblins, which were of a higher class than the usual goblins. The adventurers just realized that the appearance of this large number of goblins was probably due to the actions of the Goblin King and Queen. Hobgoblins are one of the signs that the development of the goblins has begun to expand. The threat level of this massive group of hobgoblins was at level C, and this was extremely dangerous for the city of Alessar. The adventurers would report today's events to the guild, while Fran would still kill the other goblins who suddenly appeared in the forest.
まだいたのか
キル。ドラゴンパンダ。ダブルスラッシュ。
トライエクスプロージョン今だ
トリプルスラッシ
フランのレベルが6になりました。
ュ。まだ。
Fran is already growing, and her level is slowly rising to go to the evolution of the black cat race. But unfortunately, the goblins kept popping up, and there was no end to it. This made Fran lose her focus from being too tired to fight. However, she would not stop because the city's state was also threatened by the presence of this large number of goblins. Shisho is worried about Fran's condition, and Shisho is constantly protecting her. But sadly, Fran was still getting hit by many goblins.
ここは一旦逃げよう 傷を見せろ